Welcome back! We've got quite a few Pyra and Mythra Smash facts today. The Smash Wiki is relatively new with very little updates, so I'll just point out what they've said and continue on with facts I've discovered through rigorous testing. Mythra and Pyra are the only playable characters to be living weapons. This is of course a reference to the Xenoblade Chronicles, where Pyra and Mythra are not just characters, but living weapons. Secondly, their artwork is obviously altered. This was shown in the direct with Sakurai mentioning how in order to keep an E10 rating, these characters had to have more clothing on them. Strangely enough, that didn't include nerfing the size of their cleavage. Sorry, Mai, I guess those are too big for Smash.
Please clap.
Alright, now that those are out of the way, let's talk about some facts. From here on out, if I am referring to both Pyra and Mythra, I will just simply refer to them as Pythra. That should make things nice and easy. Here are a collection of things that are pocketable by either Villager or Isabelle. Pyra's side special Blazing End can be pocketed. However, this only works in the beginning of the move when Pyra initially throws out the sword. Once the spinning animation and hitbox begins, it is no longer pocketable. It seems that this move is both a projectile and a physical move. A projectile at the start and a physical move when the spin damage occurs. I don't know if this is intentional or not, but if it is, I'd say it's a very clever way of pointing out the fact that Pyra and Mythra are physical swords themselves. It's confusing, I know. Apart from all of that, Pyra's other moves cannot be pocketed. And that almost falls in line with Mythra's abilities. None of her moves can be pocketed at all except for both variants of B. Both Ray of Punishment and Chroma Dust can be pocketed by Isabelle. Chroma Dust being unique as only one projectile can be pocketed instead of the 5 released. And because of her invincibility frames, neither of the 4 other shots will do any damage to Isabelle. Now the momentum of these pocketed items will remain the same. Since they're a projectile that's shot from above, that same projectile can only be useful when thrown from above as well. If you were to release the pocket from the ground, Isabelle will merely drop either pocketed item on the floor. As always, since they're pocketed, they of course do more damage and knockback than the original move itself. Keep in mind this won't be taking any stocks as the move itself is very weak and doesn't kill till very high percentages. And that's pretty much it for the Pocket series so far. I'll be getting to the final smashes a little bit later. But to reiterate, Pyra's side B, only at the beginning of the move, and Mythra's up B, both variants, but only one projectile for both variants. Moving on to Reflectors in the game. To make this one easy, we just busted out Fox and held down B the entire time. This is while we tested everything in Pythra's moveset. Again, as with Isabelle, the only move in Pyra's kit to be reflected is side B's Blazing End. And again, it's only the beginning variant. If spaced correctly, you'll see once the spinning animation starts, Fox will get hit, despite his reflect being held for the entire duration. Even the final hit of Blazing End will smack Fox rather than be reflected. Again, I feel this only solidifies my belief that this is intentional as a sort of a callback to the original series, but who knows for sure. As mentioned, no other move can be reflected from Pyra. Mythra happens to be the exact same as well. The only move to be able to be reflected are her variants of up B. None of her other moves trigger the reflector. And I mean, hey, did you really expect any different? Let's move on to the last variant of the series, which is Ness's and Lucas's Absorb mechanic. Funnily enough, this is the only one that isn't triggered by Pyra's Burning End. Yup, from up close and the spinning animation, nothing. You just end up taking fat damage. I guess that makes sense. If you absorb the sword, you might literally be absorbing Pyra and Okay, so Mythra, same thing, B. However, there is one unique property. Although Ray of Punishment is stronger than Chroma does, it won't heal as much as Chroma Dust does. For some reason, Ness will heal more with the individual small hits of Chroma Dust than the one big burst of Ray of Punishment. This may be the mechanic of Ness's PSI Magnet, but even with strong moves like a fully charged Giga Flare, he's able to heal much more than the small variant. Also, as a side note, I feel like they had patched something here. I remember Giga Flare being able to heal like over 20% and now it only does 10? Let me know if I'm wrong about that, but it feels like it always healed way more before. I don't know. In any case, it seems like there's a damage threshold that takes effect when PSI Magnet is used in order for Ness to heal more than normal. At least that's what it seems like through testing. Big moves heal and smaller moves heal less. It's not a base healing, meaning despite a stronger projectile, Ray of Punishment heals less. Maybe I'm giving too much credit to Ray of Punishment than it deserves, but it definitely was a little bit strange to see Chroma Dust heal much more. Tangent over. However, staying in the same vein, I wanted to see if my hypothesis was right. And so I busted out Palutena and... yeah, the move reflects at the beginning of Burning End and counters at the spinning portion. So, this can't be accidental, right? I think this confirms my theory of what I had said earlier, although the counter doesn't actually hit Pyra despite they being a literal sword. I honestly don't get it, but that's up to Xenoblade fans to correct me or not. Moving on. Mythra has 2 final smashes, each with their own characteristics. And as much as I tried, neither of them could be reflected, nor pocketed, nor absorbed. I guess that makes sense, as most final smashes cannot activate regular moves like reflectors or final smashes, but damn, how good would it have been if one of them could at least be pocketed? I'm sure it wouldn't do much damage, but it would still be pretty cool. And as a side note, I bet you wouldn't heal as much as Giga Flare will. It is strange how nothing happens, but also, well, I guess it's to be expected. Alright, so that's it for Mythra as far as what they can do and what happens to them specifically, but let's talk about some stages. There's a couple stages where we can study what affects them when the girls are out. And both Pokemon Stadium and Boxing Ring have character names on the board. More facts about these stages in future episodes. And neither of these change in real time. However, these aren't stagnant the entire time. It seems that whenever the stage decides to update its data, the characters on stage will reflect who is selected to be shown. Meaning if you're playing as Pyra at the time of the change, the stage will update as Pyra on the screen in the background. And vice versa, Mythra will be updated on both stages as well whenever it updates. Seems like the game won't update in real time, but it will update at some point. And now finally a few odd facts that you may or may not care about. If you do, I suggest a like and subscribe. Anyways, so we know how the reflector works with Blazing End. However, if we have both characters with a Franklin badge, one will reflect into nothingness, basically, and the other will just straight up kill. Like we all know, reflectors multiply the damage on all attacks reflected, meaning at some point one of these damn reflectors aren't going to do their job. Meaning, Fox can die at 0. Dang, I know that's a rare event, but just know it can happen. And lastly, Joker has a taunt that shows Morgana. In 8-player smashes, Morgana does not come out. However, this isn't the case for Pyra and Mythra. Rex will always show up no matter how many players are on stage. And speaking of that, if you play on a stage with 8 Pyras, you'll notice a huge lag. When you have 8 Pyras on the stage, or just a few of them, it will slow down the game's frame rate. It does seem to be only from fire attacks. And you'll actually see here during this testing, during pausing, moving the camera will actually show that during a fire move, the camera will actually lag behind. It'll move smoothly through here, and once we reach the fire portion, it'll actually slow down, reducing frame rates, although it is paused. I feel like this tells me that there's a lot of processing power when it comes to fire moves, but perhaps it's not the fire itself, but the fact that it's a huge explosive hitbox with a ton of detail. I figure the Switch can handle all this, but I mean, I don't know, then again, my Switch is pretty old, and I'm pretty sure that it's accumulated enough dust where slowdown can actually occur. I mean, Animal Crossing kinda runs like trash now on my Switch. What this means for the future of competitive fighting, I'm not too sure at the moment, but it is something to consider. And lastly, for Mythra's stage, a few little details, most of which are covered in Sakurai's presentation. However, I will show you, inside the cabin seems to have details, although nothing that really pops out to me. Again, I'm not really informed on the Xenoblade Chronicles, but from what I see, nothing too interesting. What I did notice is a pineapple here, which to me is funny, considering there's already a pineapple in the game. That looks so much better. I guess that could be confusing. Side note, why is the food so realistic compared to everything else in the game? I don't know, it's just a thought, I guess. Moving on to the last fact, I just wanted to point out Poppy dances in one of her animations with a very stoic expression. I've never seen someone move so joyously with an absolute deadpan face. I don't know why, that was just hilarious to me, and I hope you guys enjoyed that too. That's all I've got for today. I'm sure within the coming week we'll have some fatter, nastier, sick clips. But when I get that info, I'll post them here. Many thanks to all my followers and subs, and those of you that like, you guys kick ass. And that's pretty much it for now. I'll see you guys later, and peace.